In the heart of the English countryside, every year in early May, some of the world's finest horsemen and women do battle for the most coveted prize in the sport of eventing, the Mitsubishi Motors Badminton Trophy. The Badminton Horse Trials is not only a major equestrian competition, it is also one of the biggest outdoor events in the world, with over 200,000 people attending the 4 days. Badminton director Hugh Thomas gives a little background into the task that confronts him every year.
We set this event up in a greenfield site, the Deer Park at Badminton. You come here any of 10 months of the year, you wouldn't know anything went on. And I rather pride myself on that, actually, that you should enjoy the English countryside on those occasions. So we're setting it all up from scratch, close to 200,000 people over the 4 days, however many million square meters of canvas, temporary grandstands for 12, 15,000 people. It is a big thing to set up, and it seems to have established a sort of a niche in the calendar over the 50 years.
In eventing, there are 3 disciplines: dressage, speed and endurance, and show jumping. And the first we see in the dressage, from Finland, 32-year-old Pia Pantsu riding the 10-year-old Japaya Caruso. And with me in the experts chair, I'm delighted to welcome the BBC's voice for equestrianism, Mike Tucker.
Well, sunshine for Pia's test, but this morning, high winds and electric atmosphere, and hasn't seen that great a standard of dressage, which is here to test the training and discipline of horse and rider, and temperament plays a very big part. This young lady first burst upon the scene in 1994 in the World Games at The Hague on a very good little horse called Sima, and ever since then she's got better and better to finish with the bronze medal individually in the World Equestrian Games last September on this exciting young horse, Pia, who rides for Finland but has based herself with the Jonsson family in Sweden with such success. The half passes, the change direction, nice rhythm, very accurate test. Changing the bend as she changes direction and back on the centre line. Looks very promising.
Well, Pia would lead after the first day with a score of 41.6, but that would soon be overtaken on the Friday. All things would change, and so would the weather.
Bettina Hoy, 40 years old now, one of the world's best dressage riders in the sport of eventing, with Ringwood Cockatoo, a horse that her husband Andrew used to ride, but she's taken over with tremendous success, finished second in the German championships in Le Moulin, and of course she does ride for Germany. Lovely change of pace, so accurate but at the same time graceful.
And that test gave her a score of 33.4, so that was really setting the target for her husband Andrew, who was riding 2 horses, Mr. Prakatan and here Moonfleet for Sue Magnia.
Well, the Hoys very much fancied to win the 2003 title. Moonfleet, a horse that actually he fell on in the World Equestrian Games, but he's a horse he thinks a lot of. They're exhibiting an accurate and good flying change. And again, a lovely change of pace since Andrew and Bettina have been married. Andrew's dressage has got better and better. Quite muddy, but conditions still good. It's rather sloppy rather than deep. As you can see, horses moving through it very easily. Serpentine of 3 loops at the canter, showing the counter canter. And all these movements designed for the obedience for the cross-country and show jumping. And that explained by the defending champion, Pippa Funnell.
Where it's obviously very difficult is with these 3-day event horses. They obviously are so fit. They've got to run you know, they've got to cover 12 miles on cross-country speed and endurance day, so they have to be so fit, and that's where it's difficult sometimes containing that fitness, and they've got to obviously get in the dressage arena, show all their paces and their movement, show that they're listening to every command, and be attentive, and that's where the distraction of all the people, maybe the flags flapping when they're so fit, it's very difficult to keep that last bit of attention.
Well, if the Hoys were to win this title, they'd have to dethrone this lady, Pippa Funnell, with the defending champion, Supreme Rock. And they are a formidable combination now, Mike.
Yes, they certainly are, but Pippa's in tremendous form. Literally returned last weekend from the Rolex Kentucky Thread event where she won with Primrose Pride, and I think that in itself has just taken a little pressure off Pippa. Ringwood Cockatoo on 33.4, took a 8 mark or so lead in the dressage, and that's what Pippa will be shooting at now. Good moving horse, hasn't quite got the elevation of stride that the grey Ringwood Cockatoo of Bettina Hoy's had, but very accurate. Smooth changes of pace. There's a lovely, and this is now one of the great strengths of this horse. Without doubt, the best walk there is of any event horse in the world. This is the most difficult movement because it really shows tension, and as you can see, there's absolutely no tension in this picture whatsoever. Now those serpentine of 3 loops on the wrong lead here. So Pippa's weight over the leading leg and then changes. And again, a real test of obedience, bearing in mind the fitness that she herself was telling us about. Just a little bit early with the flying change there. That won't score top marks. But the marks reflecting a close battle between Bettina and Pippa. Now we come the flying changes across the arena. That's a slightly more accurate one. Have to do it on that centre line as they cross. And again, a little bit early, but well executed other than that. And now coming down the centre line. The crowd here get the provisional marks on a screen, so they've got some idea how she's doing. And she looks to be doing pretty well, thank you.
Warm applause from a very attentive crowd. This girl is no doubt the darling of the English eventing fans these days. Remember, she won the title last year by leading from start to finish, and she takes the lead, but by the narrowest of margins, just 0.2 of a penalty point in front of Bettina Hoy, and then a host of international riders all ready to pounce on cross-country day. Saturday dawned dry and cool, but there had been a fair amount of rain over the previous days, so we asked Brian Schrappel, the president of the ground jury, for his assessment of the ground conditions.
Well, I've just this morning walked around the D track from start to finish to have a final check on the conditions, and I'm very pleased to be able to report that we have one area that we're monitoring that's still in its original form in the course as needing critical care. But we don't consider it dangerous, otherwise we would have already made a significant change to it. The rest of the track is in very good shape and should produce some really good jumping and running. The conditions are great at the moment, fine, cool, bit of a breeze, so the horses should really thrive on it, I hope.
Well, cross-country is the feature of the day, but that is not the only aspect of the competition. A roads and tracks phase, then this 2 miles of steeplechase against the clock that's got to be completed in 4 minutes 30 seconds if there's no time penalties incurred. And then back on a roads and tracks section to make sure the horses are thoroughly prepared for the cross-country itself.
And the first we see on the cross-country for Great Britain, Jeanette Breakwell, and over to you. Very experienced combination, Mike.
She has, of course, now since 1999 been the pioneer rider for the British team. And here's another man who's very experienced at starting big competitions off, Philip Dutton, from Australia, but campaigns in America, in Pennsylvania. And this is an ex-steeplechaser, Cayman Wentz. Safely through the sunken road. As we now head to the quarry. Fence 3, 4 and 5, and it's never come that early before. Not quite such a difficult test, but certainly one that needs considerable concentration from horse and rider. And this now a very experienced combination across the country. Well, there's the Vicarage V, famous badminton fence, either 4 or 5 strides to that famous ditch. And this now really beginning to stretch out. The Huntsman's Close complex. Fences at 6 to 10 for Jeanette Breakwell, and over to you. Late on in the course last year, in fact, they made one of their only mistakes ever across country, and they fell at the gates. This time, accuracy and steerability, crucial, and she's over her bogey of last year. Well, here's Andrew Nicholson now, an amazing competitor, being placed at all the major competitions around the world, but funnily enough, his best placing in badminton only 5th back in 1999 with New York, riding Mr. Smithy at the quarry. Difficult ride, very few people could ride this horse as well as he does. Won Burley a few years back, and he set off pretty well. Dutton at the lake, he gets the bounce coming down the right-hand side. Now he's got to sit up and steer out, and there's quite a steerage question here. And has he overdone it? Just gone slightly longer route and nearly undercooks it. Over to you, still looking full of running. And the clock counting down as they're coming to the kennels. Again, 2 accuracy tests on a turn. And Jeanette answers them well.
Philip Dutton and Cayman went the first combination on the course over the last. Now, have they got inside the optimum time of 12:06? No, just 3 seconds over. 1.2 penalties to add to their overnight score.
Well, now, Mr. Smithy and Andrew Nicholson just over halfway round this course, just under 7,000 metres. Swinging wide to get his line. There is a longer way round than this. This is the quickest route. 1, 2, 3, 4. Goes through on 4. We'll see some go through on 5 there. Over to you and Jeanette Breakwell at the lake. And there's a big crowd around here. But Jeanette Breakwell, classic. Firm as a rock in the plate. Very decisive. And is good on the clock. 2:26 to get home. To get inside 12:06. Some great shots of Andrew Nicholson in full flight as we now head for the charisma puzzle. A lot of attention down here. It's 2/3 of the way round. There's a big ditch to a bounce over a hedge. And then they've got to turn left pretty quickly and find a line to that hedge out. And there'll be some who won't get that right. So Andrew Nicholson coming to that charisma puzzle. Again, you get that wonderful picture of solid cross-country riding there. Comes away from there with 3:54 seconds still to get home.
So, Jeanette Breakwell at the last. Over to you. And they have put in an exemplary performance. Absolutely foot perfect. 8 seconds to spare. 47.4. And that is the target.
And what's more, one of the most classic cross-country grounds seen in recent times. Now, what is this man going to do at the lake? Andrew Nicholson, Mr. Smithy. He's a little bit behind the clock as far as Jeanette Breakwell's time is concerned, but again, foot perfect through the lake and away very quickly with just over 2 minutes counting down. Britain's Leslie Law on sheer H2O at the kennels. 49.4 after the dressage, there and thereabouts now. Can he make the most of it? Pippa Funnell, one of 13 riders with 2 horses. With the Cranston Diebeck Syndicate's Corner Man, a horse that's promised a lot. Now, can he deliver? All very quick through there, just a little bit slippery. You can see the dust going down, but they recover and just have the gate to jump out. safely through the Huntsman's Close.
Coming to the last, Andrew Nicholson and Mr. Smithy, and they're going to have a few time penalties. Andrew gritting his teeth. He knows he's slightly misjudged it this time. They were 6 after dressage, but those few penalty points are going to drop them below Jeanette Breakwell and over to you. But I caught up with Andrew afterwards and asked him about the going.
It's nothing like the collecting ring out here where everyone's been riding for the last 3 days. Out there, it looks beautiful. Yeah.
And even if we get some rain this afternoon, do you think it'll hold up?
Yeah, I don't think it'll make any difference to it.
Well, here's Leslie Law now in sheer H2O. He had a great competition in Kentucky last week with a full... Oh, and he pops in a stride. Now, that's significant. If we get a lot of horses just popping in a short stride there, we might well get some duckings. But Leslie avoids that. He loses a little bit of time, but he's still clear.
2 minutes 18 to get home. It's a close call. And now we go to the Vicarage V, a fence that has caused a lot of discussion, and Pippa Funnell takes us through it.
This is the first year at the Vicarage V that we've had a fence beforehand. We've just jumped a very, very large ditch and rail before this fence. So it's very important to get the right canter, good strong canter. You needn't go too far out to make the turn, but come in. And on the approach to this fence, I want to be aiming for the tree and the number 19 of the second element. So we get a nice jump here and have a very positive canter, and then it's 5 strides, but it's very important when you land here that you focus and think about getting on your line for the Vicarage V itself, because the line is the most important thing. So I'm going to be thinking of aiming. There's a green sort of hairy bushy tree, and that's the line I want. And it's very important to keep your eyes up, the horse channeled between the leg, and don't be tempted by looking at all these ditches running in every direction, that you just keep your eyes focused on the line with the rail.
Well, here's Cornerman now putting that into practice, and that ditch is smelly, believe me, but makes light of it, Cornerman and Pippa Funnell.
So at the last, Leslie Law, sheer H2O. They're going to have just a few time penalties. That mistake at the lake has cost them 3 seconds, 1.2 penalties into third position for Leslie Law.
And now Cornerman at the lake with Pippa Funnell. Now will she jump these 2 rails into the water without a stride? Oh, he hits the first, puts in a... Oh, and brilliantly recovered. Sits right back, maintains the balance. And that is a superb piece of recovery from the European champion. Well, here's Andrew Hoy looking very serious. Quick glance on the clock, you noticed, with Mr. Prakatan, horse that used to be ridden by Australian Matt Ryan. Coming down to the kennels. Line again, very important here. There's a very narrow target at both these 2 fences.
Andrew Hoy takes the flag, but that's all right, doesn't incur penalties. A huge crowd enjoying the action. Stay with us after the break. Welcome back to the cross-country action from Badminton. And the first we see on the course, William Fox Pitt. Sadly, had to withdraw his top horse, Tamarillo, overnight. So this is his only ride of the day, Highland Lad.
A horse that he won the famous Burghley title on last September. Oh, and he leaves a leg, and again, what a recovery. Brilliant piece of thinking, walked his course and got out of that well. See it again. You see he leaves 1 leg behind, but he sits back, picks the horse up. The horse is so agile, and they land upright, one's delighted to say, in the water.
At the last, Pippa Funnell, Cornerman, a great round. That will give her tremendous confidence with Supreme Rock still to come. Just 5 seconds over the allotted time. 2 penalty points to add. 47.6 puts her into second place behind Jeanette Breakwell, and over to you.
And that optimum time is not looking easy to get, but here's one that might. I Spy and Polly Stockton, the former Mark Todd ride I Spy, and in Huntsman's Close, and it's very tight, and he's really moving on. Slips a little bit on the corner, and really cobbers that. They recover. Oh, and they also clobber the tree. Well, horse doesn't look any the worse, but in fact they're going to retire. Well, here's Clayton Fredericks with absolute novelty at the Charisma Puzzle. Pops across the ditch, catches the bank, and Pike with twist, and Clayton's flying. But it is, I'm afraid, 65 penalties for that fall. And in fact, the Australian Clayton Fredericks retires. Now, what about this Australian? Andrew Hoy and Mr. Prakatan. Needs to be down at the Mitsubishi pickups at about 2 minutes 30 to be on an equal par with the one inside time. Over to you. And he's there. He's on target. Now, what will he do? Coming down the right-hand side, bounces. That's two crucial factors ticked off. Oh, and stumbles on top of the bank. We really are seeing some brilliant recoveries at this lake this afternoon.
Now, coming to the pin-in bank is Mary Sleet and Penny Royal the third. Oh, and one of the very few to have trouble there during the afternoon. Meanwhile, further on the course for France, Pierre de Bastard and Athlete de la Cour. And now just a 2-element fence rather than 3. The first part having been taken out by the ground jury due to the ground.
11 nations in all for the £37,500 first prize. And Mr. Prakatan at the Beaufort staircase, taken the slightly longer route, but he's got time in hand. Judgment of pace so crucial across country. He needs about that 1 minute 20 seconds to get home. And here's Pierre de Bastard at the lake with Athlete de la Cour. The French went so well in Jerez. They are, of course, the team silver medalists, and they also have, of course, the individual world champion. And Pierre de Bastard slips up on the corner. Well, that won't incur any penalties, but he will lose time. He was perfectly well judged on the course, and I think he's caught in the string.
Yes, he was caught in the string, and it took a little while to sort it out, so he had a lot of time penalties. Very unlucky, as we now see Pia Pantsu and Yapaya Caruso at the quarry, fences 3, 4 and 5.
She one of the 14 first-time riders at badminton, but it won't stop this lady having a real cut at the title. She's a lot of people's idea of the winner. Well, now Captain Richard Waygood, the captain with the lifeguards and also riding master for the Household Cavalry, was of course a military competition when it started, but not so much now. And Richard's riding for his life, and he's going to get a ducking. Puts in the stride in between those two rails, and that's the risk. Master Fred just got a leg over, but it's a very smooth rail. I'll very soon have Master Fred off that. And poor Richard Waygood. He went well here last year, but that doesn't mean you've got the right to think you're going to storm round badminton at a second attempt. But this man is storming round.
Yes, Andrew Hoy at the last on Mr. Prakatan. A really honest try of this horse, and he's done it for him again. Inside the time, stays on his dressage score of 52.8.
So the leaderboard looking now pretty tight up at the top, with of course the show jumping to come on the final day, as we see Arnaud Boiteau, Expo Dumoulin coming to the Beaufort staircase. French have had a strong challenge about him, and he's the first one we go the short way. Must save, what, 10 seconds, I would think.
Yes, but he was well over the allotted time, and sadly the horse was withdrawn overnight. As we see Pia Pantsu at the Hunt Kennels, and we now have a horse's eye view of the fence. And just look at how tight that is and how wide those corners are. This really does need accuracy and really careful riding.
Well, the degree of training that this lady goes into really shows to perfection there over the Hunt Kennels. And now Caruso and Pia Pantsu at the Vicarage ditch, and again, lovely, smooth, accurate, bold, courageous combination there. Really highlighting all of what event riding is about. Accuracy and boldness, pops across the ditch, and that's how it should be done. And look at the time. She's now quicker than Over to You. And of course, if she gets inside the time, she could become the leading score. Nina Fout from United States of America was in their Olympic squad, in fact in the team that won the bronze medal in Sydney. Three Magic Beans opted out of the famous Relics Kentucky 3-day event to come to the Mitsubishi Badminton 3-day event because cross-country is this horse's strong point. 1, 2, 3, 4. We heard Pippa say 5, but Nina goes through on 4 strides and makes it look just as easy. Caruso at the Shogun Hollow and is still clear, and the clock looks pretty good as well.
Then a long gallop to the shooting butt, the tallest fence on the course, but for these riders, they make it look easy. And then down to the lake, and Pia, before her cross-country ride, took us through how she was going to cope with it.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 meters, and it's quite wide bounds for the horse in the end of the course. So what you want to do is to jump in, land hopefully somewhere here, and as you can see, it's quite a big jump. And then keep your legs on and land. And my plan is to take 3 strides up to 28A and then 2 very, very forward ones to 28B.
Well, Mike, that's how she wants to do it. Let's see if she can pull it off.
And there are those pickups in front, and she's certainly right up to the target time. 2 minutes 30 was the time that Jeanette was there, and that's brilliantly executed. Her position, oh, and she drops a whip. Little stumble coming out, and she does get those strides in and away. Well, this is the Charisma puzzle with Nina Fountain, 3 Magic Beans. Oh, and the horse really helps Nina there. Just landed short on the ditch, and she does well to recover and steer him through. And 4:25 to get home for 3 Magic Beans.
Whereas at the last, now she's over the time, Pia. How many seconds is she going to have to add? She needs to ride it out. Every second is 0.4 of a penalty. 11 seconds over, 4.4 time penalties, but she goes into the lead. But will that cost her those few time penalties?
Well, here's the young New Zealander, Hilan Tompkins and Glenn Carrick. Their second badminton, swings a little wide, jumps the ditch very impressively, plays safe, and plays safe but well for the young New Zealander. Well, twice winner Mary King, King William in 1992 and Star Appeal in 99, now riding King Solomon. This is the Huntsman's Close. Those 3 quite wide log piles, all coming very close together. Steering absolutely crucial if you miss those trees as well. And then finally, the gate to get out. Well, this is Anna Hilton, been a long time a star for Sweden with Limerick Star. Oh, she probably can be accused then of taking her hand off the rein at the wrong time. She was trying to give the horse a slap down the shoulder. Now she goes the long way, and she's heading out for deep water. That's not sense, and whoops! It's a ducking for Anna Hilton and Limerick Star. Well, now Mary King and King Solomon at the Charisma puzzle, pops the ditch, sits well back to play safe, and is through, and the time also looking good. Mary King in 11th place after dressage. She's right in touch. And now Heidi Ankasides for Greece. Saved her good horse Michaelmas for next year's Athens Olympics, but you've got to practice at this level, and she has this less experienced horse, Fairfax. She, of course, has been quite close to some big titles, including the Olympics, the Europeans. Oh, and she doesn't get that line right. And now she's got to find her way out. Sensibly taking one of the alternatives, loses her time, but that's 20 jumping penalties for that one refusal, and lost time as well. King Solomon over the Mitsubishi pickups now, coming down the right-hand side. That's the popular side here, and he pops in a little stride, but does it to good effect. They've got to be very clean if they pop that little stride in. Ireland's Patricia Donegan and Don't Step Back. Very impressive indeed across country, right back to their very best, and they're going to look a very good bet for Ireland in the European Championships in Punchestown. Well, now the Beaufort Staircase, the last combination on the course coming at 29, about half a mile from home. And there is a short route here. It could save anything up to 10 seconds, but this is a route that really must show the horse it's agile near the end of the course. The longer route, well, it's definitely less risky, but time is lost. And can they afford it at this late stage in the competition? Well, King Solomon looking full of running, and Mary thinks she can afford the longer route. Not the most classical style there, but she still, with 1:24 to get home, is going to be, I think, inside the time. Well, here's one of the legends of eventing, 53-year-old Bruce Davidson from the United States of America, an apparition. Oh, and he's into orbit! And he can't hang on. The double world champion, he's won 2 Olympic golds, and he's got 65 penalties for the trouble.
So at the last, Mary King Solomon, gets a terrific round of applause, and she too finishes inside the time. But when we look at the score, she had 2.4 penalties on the steeplechase, so she's now in 6th position on 51.2.
Well, now apparition in Bruce Davidson, and they hit the pickups and down they go. Apparition taking a little bit of a pause before he gets up, and I think he's going to be all right. It looked actually quite an innocent fall, but they are solid fences, and sadly, Bruce Davidson retires out of Badminton 2003. See it again. The horse doesn't look to be concentrating, I have to say. He just doesn't get high enough of the pickups, and as a result, down they come. Bruce Davidson, who had a crashing fall last August and broke 11 bones, got back to ride here again, but sadly, it doesn't end the way he would like it. And here's another grade that doesn't get satisfaction. The European individual bronze medalist, Enrique Sarasola from Spain with Doopy-Doo, falls in Huntsman's Close and retires.
At the Pinion Bank, Polly Jackson, Limestone Rise, winner of the under-25 title last year at Badminton and going for it again this year. Very good horse across country, this. And a really promising combination as we see Blythe Tate, the former world champion, the former Olympic champion at the Vicarage V.
Blythe Tate probably in the twilight of his career with Ez. Oh, and he hasn't got the line right and just ducks left-handed of the flag, and that's a refusal. A man who's never won Badminton, 3 times second here. Now eyes very much on Germany's Bettina Hoy and Ringwood Cockatoo. Remember, right in behind Pippa Funnel after dressage, just 0.2 behind. Now, perhaps the weakest phase across country of Bettina, but she's very determined to prove that she's got the guts and determination to come through and win a big one. Just a little bit behind the clock. Remember, Over to You was here in 4:23, and already Bettina below that. Oh, and he jumps very short, lacks the pace, and gets 20 penalties for the refusal.
Well, that's it for Bettina Hoy and any chances she had of winning this year's competition. At the lake now, James Robinson and Comanche. Oh, and I think, yes, an unseated rider there, a ducking. A very wet James Robinson and a very cross James Robinson. Got that far, gone clear so far. As we see Karen Dixon and Up to Tricks at the Charisma Puzzle now. How's she going to get on at this fence, which is causing more and more problems as the afternoon goes on?
Well, the umbrellas are up too. It's just beginning to rain. She's checking back. Tries to pop it, lands short, and I'm afraid you've got to jump these fences together. Quite a heavy fall for Karen Dixon. Christophe Gourmet for France now. Cazor de Touche coming to the puzzle. Oh, and he jumps into the ditch. And you have to wonder now whether the horses are beginning not to appreciate the problem. It may be that the landing and takeoff is beginning to deteriorate.
Silence and Jan Jocelyn at the lake. Oh, it bounces him out the saddle. Just landed him, literally his bottom hit him up the backside, and he went flying, and Dan Jocelyn will not be happy.
This is Andrew Nicholson's second ride, the Spanish-bred Finicio, owned by Ramon Becker. And as you can see now, the rain pouring down, but it makes no difference to Andrew at the Vicarage V. And what about the Australian Andrew, Andrew Hoy? The ground would seem to be holding up very well. You can see the landings and takeoffs, and the horses seem to be going through them quite easily still. Well, Nicholson and Finicio down to the lake. He was on 54 after dressage. But the cross-country certainly having an influence, and this man knows how to ride a cross-country. Well, now Andrew Hoy coming to the Shogun Pin and Bank, and we learned that in fact the charisma puzzle has been taken out. So it means Andrew Hoy will come inside, he won't jump it. Well, now the grand jury and the technical delegate will very definitely be looking in the rule books, because I think it means all the jumping penalties will be taken away, and that could affect patina, of course, and there may well have to be some time adjustments, because here he goes on the inside of it. You'll see the hedge in the background, and so he's come a shorter route, and so the length of the course I think will have to be changed.
Yes, according to the rules, there will have to be an adjustment to the optimum time. Join us after the break. Welcome back to the action from Cross Country Day at Badminton. And whereas the ground was getting worse for the shoppers, would it be getting worse for the riders, Mike?
Well, the good thing about the ground is that only the horses are on it, not the thousands of spectators, and Plantagenet Russell through the sunken road.
Second ride that for Jeanette Breakwell, as we see the overnight leader, Pippa Funnell at the Huntsman's Close with Supreme Rock.
Well, the top 8 riders all within 2 fences for tomorrow's show jumping. Now, what can Pippa do? If she could go anywhere near the optimum time, she'd give herself a little bit of a buffer. Long striding horse. She would seem to be quite slow through Huntsman's Close, but he is deceiving. Well, this is Moonfleet at the lake with Andrew Hoy. Hits the first pretty hard and thinks better of it.
Yes, Andrew told me before, he said this horse has got all the ability in the world, but he'd yet to prove himself right at the top level. And there again, he said no, when other horses would have said yes. Pippa Funnell now at the Wadsworth Barrels, a fence we haven't seen, but one that jumped really well all afternoon.
Well, here's Plantagenet Russell at the lake. Jeanette Breakwell, and he doesn't look too happy about that. Well ridden. She really is riding at the top of her form across this country at Badminton. Still clear and driving for home. Ears pricked. Supreme Rock at the first kennel. Easily over the second. So far they look very easy.
At the last, Jeanette Breakwell, Plantagenet of Russell. And another excellent clear round by Jeanette, just a few time penalties. She won't be in the top 6, she's actually 9th, but another very solid performance by this excellent horsewoman.
Well, here's Philip Dutton now with his second ride, Hannigan, at the lake. Here's a man who sits like a limpet, but at the same time is a great judge of pace. And look at the clock. Here comes another inside the time late on. 15 years old now, Supreme Rock, 2 European individual titles. 1 badminton last year. Can he do it back to back?
Philip Dutton at the last on Hannigan, and another brilliant round by this consummate horseman. And he has got plenty of ammunition in his locker, running up to next year's Olympics in Athens. 8th place, 9 seconds in hand. Brilliant.
Well, Hugh Thomas described this badminton field as one of the best ever, and it is the British stars now at the end who are coming to try and really push the advantage. Christina Cook with Captain Christie, perhaps one of the best cross-country combinations there is in the business. She's given herself plenty to do after the dressage. She's not easy in the dressage, getting better, but she can normally pick up some ground in this phase.
Yes, I think 1 or 2 people felt she was very harshly done by in the dressage, but she's brilliant across country, and this horse is brilliant too as he comes down to the lake.
Yes, he's trying to emulate such famous horses as Sir Watty, Great Ovation, Kilbarry, High and Mighty, all who've done back-to-back badmintons. Is it his turn? She's on time, 2 minutes 30. That's what Jeanette Breakwell was on. Over to you. Oh, look at that. Cool as a cucumber, and this lady is absolutely on fire.
Christina Cook at the pin-in bank. She said to me before this round, the more it rains, the more he'll like it. And although he swishes his tail, he is just the most brilliant horse across the country. As we see the last on the course, Polly Stockton and Word for Word.
And this is a lady who's knocking on the door for selection in the major championship team. Great performance in Kentucky.
Yes, she actually had the same score as Pippa Funnel there, but because Pippa Funnel went quicker across country, or was on the optimum time across country, she won it as against Polly. Pippa goes a long way at the Beaufort Staircase, 1:20. She's going to be pretty close. She should get home inside the time.
And of course, if she gets inside the time, she'll stay on her overnight score and she will go into the lead.
And from the cheer she got at the last, she is definitely their favourite. Pippa Funnel just 2 seconds over the optimum time. 0.8 to add to her dressage score. The penalty score in your picture is incorrect. She didn't have any time penalties in the steeplechase, so her score after the dressage and cross-country day would be 34 penalties. Supreme Rock, supreme across the country. They cheered and they cheered.
Well, Polly Stockton, unaware of all that happening as she comes to the lake, doesn't get the best shot at it. Oh, and aren't these horses wonderful? They're so agile, and Polly sits tight, you have to say that. Now, if she can get inside the time, she's going to come up into the top 10. Oh, and down they nearly go again, but still Polly sticks there.
So at the last, Tina Cook, Captain Christie, yet another brilliant performance across country. This has taken her from 37th to 12th. She, of course, a great friend of Pippa Funnel, and I caught up with Pippa after this round and asked her if she was relieved that the charisma puzzle had been taken out.
Well, I have to say I was a bit disappointed because, again, that's the sort of, good old Irish hunter he is. That's just the sort of fence, okay, yeah, for sure, it's caused a lot of problems, but I was actually quite looking forward to riding it on him because he's got that scope. I think he would have just stepped over the ditch, but I think it's for the sport, they have to make these sensible decisions. Obviously, the fence was causing problems, the bank was giving way, so, I think it was very, very much the right thing to do.
At the last fence, last combination on the course, Polly Stockton, Word for Word, and they too get inside the time, right on the time. A brilliant performance by her. But afterwards we caught up with Hugh Thomas and asked him why the grand jury had taken out the charisma puzzle.
We saw 3 or 4 horses right towards the end of the day clearly misjudging the fence, and I got a report up that the definition of the ditch, the horses weren't quite sure what to jump. And that gets really, really scary. It's difficult to decide in these things, but we could not face the idea of 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 falls at a fence like that. Best thing is out, an instant decision.
So at the end of cross-country day, Pippa Funnel and Supreme Rock increased their lead to 10.4 penalties over the flying Finn Pia Pantsu. But after them, the scores are really tight, so it's all to play for in the show jumping. Well, before the show jumping action on the Sunday, there is the horse inspection in front of Badminton House, and thankfully the sun was shining. A lovely, glorious day. Horses must parade in front of the grand jury to make sure that they are fit to carry on. Word for Word, Polly Stockton's second ride was sadly withdrawn overnight, but the overnight leader, Supreme Rock, and Pippa Funnel were in the pink and ready to defend their crown.
Supreme Rock is 5.
In the show jumping arena, the first we see is Pippa Funnel on her second ride, Cornerman.
3 riders have 2 horses in the top 20, and so some of these horses coming out of order. This is one of them, Cornerman, lying in 3rd place overnight. And this course designed by international course designer John Doney, and it is up to height, 1.20 meters, but it really doesn't look that big, and time is quite tight, 96 seconds the time allowed, and then if they go over that 96 seconds, it's 1 penalty for every second, so time can be very influential. You can see the leader score up there at the moment, and that is Ringwood Cockatoo, Bettina Hoy.
Well, Mike, this horse, after his cross-country, he lost a shoe and quite a bit of his foot. and was very lame, and the blacksmith apparently did a fantastic job overnight, rebuilt his foot, put his shoe back on, and this morning, you wouldn't have known there was any problems.
Very much a team effort. And there's a water ditch under that. It's been causing problems. And it's the second half of the course, which is definitely where the faults have been. Very few clear rounds so far, 3 to date. So I think we could be in for a very dramatic finish. Cornerman now moved on to 50. And this is the final line, the combination. 2 strides, and that's another 4 penalties added, and just 1 more fence now. And you can see the clock counting down. She could get a time fault. Yes, she gets 1 time fault. So she finishes on 55. And that's going to keep her ahead of Bettina Hoy and Ringwood Cockatoo at the moment. Well, now, Jeanette Breakwell on Mr. Richard Holdsworth. Over to you. A brilliant show jumping round to win the individual silver medal in the World Equestrian Games. At the moment, she's been lying 5th at the start of this show jumping, but a clear round would very definitely put the pressure on. Yogi Breisner is the British team manager, and he, together with Ken Clausen, have done a lot to improve British show jumping, and Jeanette still clear. 1 to go. Time is going to be all right here, and that is a classic round. Well, Jeanette has been in the spotlight for different reasons and eventing recently, but she's put all that behind her, and she really has ridden better than ever. 47.4. She takes the lead. So over to you is the one they're trying to catch with Jeanette Breakwell, and it's Andrew Nicholson and Mr. Smivey. Mr. Smivey lying in 4th place, but in fact he hadn't been jumping well outside, we learn, and that immediately starts dropping him down. He's already jumped on his other horse, Finizio, and he had 2 fences down on that horse. And this is now getting expensive, very expensive indeed. And in fact, he drops right out of it. And the focus is now on Finland's Pia Pantsu and Jopaio Caruso. So just to remind you, 44.4 is Caruso's score after cross country. And the leader at the moment in the clubhouse, as it were, having completed show jumping, is Jeanette Breakwell, 47.4. So 1 fence would drop her 1 place, but she would then stay ahead of the rest, headed at the moment by King Solomon, Mary King on 52.8. Jon Jonsson and his son have been very influential in helping Pia, and they really have got this phase buttoned up, dare I say, with 1 left. Time is good, she jumps the last, and Pia Pantsu now takes up the role of leader in this year's Mitsubishi Motors Badminton 3-day event, and there's only 1 left to jump. Last year's winner, Pippa Funnell, and she's got 2 fences and a little bit more in hand. Now, Pippa Funnell last week rode another very good horse of hers called Primor Pride, came in the show jumping with points in hand, and literally went very slowly and ended up with a lot of time faults. Had a tie, but just got home on a faster cross country. Now, she is going, dare I say, very slowly again. This huge capacity crowd are on the edge of their seats.
Dare I say it, Mike, 2 down and a few time points is time penalties is nothing. It can so easily happen. This competition is not over.
Well, the important thing to remember, if she does go into time penalties, they do ratchet up so quickly, and she is going so slowly. She's trying to get her accuracy. She's playing safe.
And she's gone outside this fence. She could have gone inside it. That's more time.
Remember, 96 seconds is the time allowed. And of course, if she has a fence down and then the clock comes in, anything can happen. There's Jeanette Breakwell in the bottom of your picture. She currently, the one behind Pia Pantsu. 44.4 is Pia Pantsu's score. We're counting down, 13 seconds. She's not going to make it. She's going to get time penalties. She mustn't have a fence down, because if she does, then she could get beaten. And it's gone. It's gone. And she's going to get time penalties. Watch the score now. 44.4 is the time she's got to beat. And look at that. It's a 0.4 of a penalty that she wins her second badminton, and it's literally 2/100ths of a second. Well, it doesn't come closer than that. Pippa, I don't think, realises quite what the situation is. I think she's actually saying, have I done it? But the crowd know, and now Pippa knows. What a horse, what a competitor. The double European champion becomes the double badminton champion of 2003 by 0.4 of a penalty.
So for the second time, Supreme Rock and Pippa Funnell have led from start to finish to win the Mitsubishi Motors Badminton Horse Trials. It was all smiles and hugs afterwards, but Pippa knew it was a tight call.
It's so difficult with him because you cannot, you know, he does go jump a lot better in that slow cog, and if you go up a gear and think, God, I'm behind the clock, he can so easily start rushing, and then the fences can come down so easily with him. He has to sort of stay in that gear. I cut it fine though.
So it was all smiles as she receives her trophies from Princess Michael of Kent. She had now won 2 legs of the Grand Slam. A win at Burghley in September would bring her eventing's richest prize, $250,000. For Mike Tucker and me, Jamie Hawksfield, goodbye.